I mean, the players love the surface, Greg, but it's the most challenging transition of the year from clay to grass.
Well, exactly that. And, you know, for the players, it's all about the movement. So there's two areas we're going to look at today, which are the shoes and the balls. So I've got two pairs of shoes here with me today in our magic box.
Oh, my goodness.
So used, I might add. Used shoes.
Used, really good shoes here, I must say. So this one on our left here is the clay court shoes, and that's a herringbone sole, as you can see right there. And the other one on the right is the grass court shoes, which has the little dimples in it. So the one on the left, which is the clay court shoe, is the one you slide with. So in other words, you slide through the court a lot easier on the body, while the dimples make you stick on the court. And this is why our glutes get so sore, because we're going from sliding to sticking, and it's quite an adjustment for the body.
But Rafael Nadal managed to perfect the art of sliding on grass. How difficult is that? Is that something only Rafa can do?
Yeah, only if you're really super physically strong, because on the women's tour you can hardly ever see that, because you would just break your ankles right away, except the exception of Kim Clijsters, who was physically the best athlete we had on the tour. I have never seen any other woman sliding, because it is just so dangerous.
Well, the other thing is, I was at Queen's when I was seeded 4th for the championships, and I tore my ankle and had to pull out of the championships because of that, because they put me on a little bit of a slick black grass court. I slid on it, and the dimples just grabbed, and then I twisted my ankle. So sliding is not recommended on a grass court, and that's the big difference, and also the way the surface is going to play. So for example, on the Monday it's very lush, it's green, nobody's played on the court, so you take a few more steps. Well, if you look at today, the court has gotten a little bit drier out there, and then you get the dirt patches out there, and that becomes a little bit slipperier, but also on the same time it's drying out. So it's a different movement pattern again.
It does get tricky, and it all depends so much on the weather, because if you have a dry and sunny weather, you might see the clay already coming out on the second or third match, and especially for women, again, because you guys are so much stronger physically, but for us, for women, we do struggle with that, because you basically have two different surfaces in one. So you have to, especially when you're going after the first step on the first shot, you have to be so careful where on the court you are.
Well, exactly. And I also want to bring something else out of my magic box here very quickly.
No.
I wonder what's happening coming out today, guys, throughout the week.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to take the Roland Garros ball and also the Wimbledon ball, which they use at the Queen's Club. And there's quite a big differences between these two balls. The Roland Garros ball is actually smaller. The Wimbledon ball, which they use at Queen's Club, is actually a little bit bigger, as well as the fluff. The fluff here, you can see, just comes off the ball a little bit more. As well as the Roland Garros ball, it is a little bit harder, while this one is a little bit softer. And all those things make a big, big difference on how you play. So for example, with the softer ball, you use looser strings usually. With the harder ball, you have a little bit of tighter strings because you want to control it. Also, weather conditions will play a huge part. The more humid it is out there, this one will fluff up even more and thus become slower.
It's not talked about that much, is it? Because it's seen as quite a sort of nerdy niche thing, but it is such a big factor in the sport. I remember once seeing a feature with Michael Laudrup, a now retired French player, where he blindfolded, identified each individual ball from the 4 Grand Slams, because they're all different, and he did it first time. That is how different they are.
Yeah, it is a huge difference for us. That's why you have to adjust the strings. I don't know about you, but for example, during the grass court season, I would go back only to natural gut, where throughout the season I would use Laxilon and gut half and half. So this is how much difference it makes. And you know, we've been waiting for what, 25 years now, to hoping that one day we might have the same ball for all the tournaments, because it would just make the life on the tour so much easier, not only for your game but for your injuries as well. We've both struggled with shoulders over the years, and it is mainly because of the balls.
Well, exactly that. And you know, if you look at Rafa, who's won the French Open on multiple occasions, he puts more rotation on the ball, so he gets more control out of a harder ball that's a little bit smaller. Well, with a softer ball, it allows it to sit in the racket a little bit longer, so you look like the looks of Roger Federer, who can hold on to the ball that fraction longer, do a little bit more with the feel around the ball as well. So it's very personal preference whether you like a softer or a harder ball.
Well, basically, with a harder ball, you just don't have enough touch. You can't really control it as much as you would wish to. What about you? Which was your favorite ball?
I loved the grass court ball as well as the hard court ball, because they were just a little bit softer, and by having that little bit more fluff around them, you get a little bit more control.
What would happen if you played with the Roland Garros ball at Wimbledon? Who would be favourite?
Well, I think you'd see a little bit more aces out there, just because it's a little bit harder, but you'd lack that little touch at the net and those little drop shots and angles. It would be a little bit harder to deal with. But the positive, if you had this ball all throughout the year, then the touch and the feel wouldn't be so difficult because your body would get used to it if you had a uniform ball all the way through.
I'm sure Rafa would be happy with playing with the Roland Garros ball in Wimbledon.
And the thing is, for Rafa, just going back to the surfaces and the difference in the surface, although the transition is very different, the positives about clay and grass together are that they are kinder on the body. It's the hard courts that are the most punishing on the joints, and it is joint injuries that we're seeing most frequently now on the tour, the hips and the knees, isn't
they
it?
are very hard fitness-wise because, you know, your glutes and quads, they are hurting big time over the next few weeks. But as far as your body goes in general and as far as injuries go, it is much easier on your body, especially for us that we both struggled with feet injuries over the years. We were really looking forward to this part of the year.
Exactly. And the other thing as well is guys are now putting clay court shoes onto hard court season because they want to slide a little bit on the hard courts as well. So they don't do the traditional hard court sole out there. So players are always looking for an advantage here and there. And in the old days, before it became banned, I used to actually play with grass court shoes on the clay so I wouldn't slide. But then the authorities said, you're not allowed to do that. That's an unfair advantage.
When did that start happening, Greg, the sliding on hard courts? Because that looks absolutely kamikaze to me.
Well, I think Goran
It does to us as well on the
Goran
women's tour.
Ivanisevic was the first guy who did that during my generation. He was just mad, and he would slide on the hard courts. And then all of a sudden we saw Djokovic, who's one of the greatest sliders all time, doing the splits with his flexibility and being able to do those things. So it's an aspect that has been added on to men's tennis.
And Kim Clijsters as well.
Yeah, Kim is probably the only exception. I mean, what she can do on the hard course, that's why she won US Open several times, because I mean, that's just amazing. But because she's so physically strong, in general, like if the girls slide on hard course, that's not going to end pretty. But that's why we prefer those sticky shoes.